Welcome to Lyme Support Network Podcast, hosted by Holistic Therapy Tribe. In each episode, we walk with someone from the Lyme community, like a doctor, warrior, coach, advocate, or an entrepreneur, to hear their personal story and insights. Today, our focus is on a Lyme coach. Our guest is Amy Finn. Can you tell us about your personal health journey and how chronic illness led you to become a health and wellness coach?
Sure. I had one of these very unfortunately typical Lyme journeys where it took me a few years to be diagnosed and involved about a dozen different doctors and several different specialties. And I ended up with one of the most well-known Lyme doctors in America. And even with that, I had treatment failure. I had an undiagnosed co-infection for about a decade. I really struggled. And I just wanted to save other people from going through the same thing. In order to heal, I had to be very aggressive about educating myself. And so many times along the way, I stopped and said to myself that not everybody is going to do this, and what is going to happen to those people? And so here I am. I'm giving back and helping people through the process, helping them navigate all of the trials and tribulations that are really part of dealing with Lyme disease.
So, if you put it the other way, you're on a mission.
Yeah, I guess I am on a mission.
Yeah, that's interesting. What was the moment that changed your perspective on food as medicine, especially in relation to chronic conditions like Lyme?
Okay, so I spent about a decade in Lyme treatment and was not getting better. And I did have, significant improvement, but anytime I tried to go off antibiotics, I was right back at the beginning again, and I wasn't getting better. And I ended up moving to California, which necessitated me finding a new practitioner. And my new Lyme doctor in California said to me, a diet is not going to cure complex chronic illness, especially tick-borne illness, but I don't think you're going to recover without changing your diet. And so she had me do the Autoimmune Paleo Diet, which is basically an elimination diet designed to identify your inflammatory triggers. And I was always pretty healthy. I was an athlete. I was an ACSM certified fitness instructor. I was a spinning instructor. I was very healthy. I thought my diet was great. It was the typical standard American diet, not a lot of saturated fats, plant-based. Well, when I did this autoimmune paleo diet, I realized that much of what I was eating was causing some severe inflammation. And basically how I figured that out was upon eliminating basically entire categories of food, I could not believe how good I felt. And things that I thought were normal part of my life, I realized were completely not normal. Things that I felt were normal to me, I thought everybody else had in the world. And I realized that this was actually a dysfunctional situation. And it was like a big light bulb went off when I realized. And then the effects of this elimination diet, having your systemic inflammation lowered so drastically and quickly, I felt like a completely different person. And it was not easy, and it was definitely not the most fun I ever had, but I knew when I was in it that I was never going to go back to eating my old way. And, it became part of my mission.
Okay. So can you tell us some of the diet changes or eliminations that you did on your food?
Yeah. So the autoimmune paleo diet, you're basically giving up gluten, dairy, and sugar. So it's a lot. And again, I thought I had such a healthy lifestyle, such a healthy diet, and Suddenly I really could only eat proteins and low glycemic vegetables, and for sugar, maybe some berries a couple of times a week. And that's what I did. And I basically still live that way.
This looks like a keto diet.
Exactly. It looks like more like a ketovore diet.
Yeah.
Because I found very quickly that I felt a lot better eating red meat than I did eating chicken, and other things that could have given protein. So I really have gravitated more towards that. And somewhere along the line, I realized that in addition to all of these physical benefits I was really feeling mental health benefits like depression, anxiety that I thought were, normal ups and downs of life completely went away. And I became much more resilient, much more able to roll with the punches of life. And I also never realized that I had food noise until it went away. I didn't realize I had it, but I realized that I had cravings and I had, times where I would be like, oh my God, I want to eat this. No, I don't want to eat this. Yes, I do. No, I don't. And all of that went away. And suddenly it was just peace and low inflammation and, joint pain went away. It was just really a complete difference.
So, have you been caught in a downward spiral due to practitioner prescribed diets? How did you overcome that and find a suitable path to healing?
Yes. When I was first told about the autoimmune paleo diet, I was not a health coach yet, and this felt extremely drastic to me, especially on top of being so sick. I had 3 tick-borne illnesses. I didn't realize that I also had mold toxicity. I was diagnosed with chronic inflammatory response syndrome later, but had been suffering from it all during that time. And I had no energy to properly take care of myself as far as nutrition. And I definitely had about 3 or 4 attempts with the autoimmune paleo diet, complete with kicking and screaming and a few tantrums before I so sick. I just hit rock bottom and was like, okay, I've got to do this. I've got to see if this is going to move the needle at all. And so I can be a little stubborn, and I'm the kind of person that I need to understand the why. And in this case, you can't really understand it until you do it. And so I just ended up just doing it. I literally had Post-its with the Nike slogan all over my house. Just do it, just do it. And I did it.
Great. So, many people with the Lyme disease struggle from food sensitivities and inflammation. How
Yeah.
important is nutrition in supporting the body's healing from chronic illness like Lyme?
So, in my opinion, nutrition is so important. And those sensitivities are actually mast cell activation syndrome. It's possibly not a syndrome for everybody, but when you are dealing with tick-borne illness, you are in such an inflammatory state, your mast cells are highly activated, and the food intolerances are one of the results of that. So it's interesting with nutrition because the way I have come to look at it is that, of course, nutrition is important. And people with Lyme disease inherently have gut problems and absorption problems. So in my opinion, it's, as far as nutrition, one of the most important things is what you're not eating. It is very important to figure out what your inflammatory triggers are and to stay away from them. And that way you are maintaining your lower inflammatory status, and you're keeping your body in a good place to heal. And when you do that for a long enough time, and the Lyme disease, the tick-borne illness starts to resolve, in most cases, those sensitivities start to resolve a little bit, and then you can start adding in more foods to have a more well-rounded diet. But when you're in the throes of it and you're acute and it's so urgent, it's very important, in my opinion, to focus on what's not to eat, because not only are you creating more inflammation, but you are creating symptoms. That inflammation shows up in symptoms. And as anybody who's dealing with tick-borne illness will tell you, you definitely have enough symptoms. You don't need any more. So that's how I approach it when I'm working with somebody who is right in the thick of it.
Can you explain what is repairing your relationship with food really means and why it is essential for a long-term healing?
So I think it's really important to understand that, yes, food is medicine, and we hear this all the time. You know, it's like a slogan people throw around all the time, but food is also poison. It is medicine and it is poison. It is, one of the biggest causes of, of all kinds of diseases, right? So when I speak to people about repairing their relationship with food, I want them to focus on it as a healing modality. And I'm also a cook. Like, I love food, and I really focus a lot on helping people do this in a way where they're not sacrificing anything. When I have people going through these elimination diets, for everything we're taking out, I want to put things in, whether it's, spice combinations or foods that they haven't tried before, or different preparations, or just recipes. I feel like it's really important to enjoy food. It's a very social part of our society. It's important as far as cultural traditions and family values. But I really feel that it's important for people to understand that what you are putting into your body can make or break you. It can change the whole trajectory of your life.
Okay. How do you support clients who are too exhausted due to brain fog to plan or prepare healthy meals?
So a lot of this is individual, depending upon where a client is coming from and what the client's life is like. But I really advocate for prep cooking and freezing things. And, I tell a lot of my clients, if possible, to buy a standalone freezer and, cases of mason jars. And, I share recipes that are easy, that can be batch cooked and frozen. I also, give people ideas that, you don't have to just prep cook meals. You can prep cook ingredients. There are all kinds of ideas. There are lots of different services that will send you meals. I have one person who hired a high school kid to come in 3 times a week and just chop things. So I listen to a client, I listen to what their life is like, and I then try to think of things that are going to fit into that client's life and, easily, without effort and without stress and drama, really, and especially if someone has kids.
So, how does food addiction play a hidden role in chronic illness? And what steps can someone take if they feel stuck in that cycle?
So when I first went through my process, I realized that giving up sugar was literally like, I don't have a real addiction to anything, but what I imagine a real addiction is like. It felt like a chemical addiction. It was so shocking to me. And then I'm out there coaching clients, and most of my clients are complex chronic illness and metabolic illness people, and they get protocols from their doctor. And I have had people break down, like sobbing to me, saying, my doctor is scaring me, telling me I'm going to die. I want to do this so badly. I'm trying so hard. I just can't. It falls apart. And I kept seeing these patterns, and because of these patterns, I went and became a certified food addiction coach. And, as far as battling it, the first thing is understanding that you are part of this. And when people ask me, what is the first step? What is the first step? How do I begin? My answer is awareness. Just be aware. Be aware of how often you're thinking about food. Be aware of that voice in your head. What does it sound like? Where is it coming from? When does it come? What were you thinking before you ate those things you didn't want to eat? That's the first step. I also, this is a little controversial, but I believe in abstinence, which, the eating disorder community feels that abstinence causes eating disorders, but it's a real addiction. And, there are chemical components to it. And a lot of this has been engineered to addict you, and it's real. And so people need support. This is not an easy thing to do by yourself, because not only is food everywhere, you absolutely need food in order to live. So I think support is really important. And so, the first step is developing a mindfulness practice around your behaviors. And then, we work on identifying triggers, identifying patterns, identifying unmet needs. I cannot tell you how much of this is connected to trauma, especially early childhood adverse events. So, I'm a trauma-informed coach, and we do a lot of work trying to figure out what is underneath the desire. Food addiction is so much numbing out. It's disassociation. So why are we doing that? What's behind that? People in this situation often are not very in touch with their emotions. So that's something we work on. We work on better coping skills. First, understanding that this behavior is a coping mechanism, and learning about why it happened to you, what is in there that is driving this, and then learning better coping skills. And it's process, and it's not linear. And I do believe that support is really important, whether it's working one-on-one with somebody or being part of a group where people can, share their experiences and bounce things off each other and reinforce the concepts.
So you emphasize helping clients find calm and balance. Why is mental fitness so critical in chronic illness recovery?
So I am really into neuroplasticity, and there are a lot of people in the Lyme world that advocate these brain retraining programs, and I do too. And I feel that with anybody, whether it's tick-borne illness or any other kind of chronic complex illness, where you've been in it for a long time and you're dealing with feeling different from everybody around you, and medical gaslighting and the actual physical manifestations of your illness, your nervous system starts to change a little bit. And we call that limbic system dysfunction. And it really drives inflammation, and it drives illness, in addition to having you walk through life, really kind of impaired in your capacity to feel joy and to see optimism and beauty. And all of those feelings become like a negative loop playing over and over again for people. And people really start to believe that they're never going to get better. And they develop, an unconscious identity of being a sick person. And it starts an inflammatory cascade. Like, it literally, when you undo this, part of the process, part of my process is to focus on happy memories, to take uplift breaks throughout the day, to do visualizations. All of these things are designed to spark these chemicals, the feel-good chemicals that are going to support lowering inflammation, and are going to support, better mental fitness. The same ways that these chemicals support that, negativity supports the opposite. So it's powerful in both directions. So once people understand this, they really, once people understand how much the thoughts affect them negatively, they suddenly, it's almost like a switch flips and they're like, wait a minute, I can do this going in the other direction.
Uh,
And I feel that it's really important. It's really long going through treatment for tick-borne illness. And it's really hard to be positive and upbeat every day. And especially when your nervous system starts to dip into limbic system dysfunction, it starts to almost feel beyond your control. And it's a really miserable place to be. So I consider that like a gift, because when people harness this power, I've had people come back to me and tell me that it's a tool they've used over and over again. Like when things pop up in their life, they go right back to this practice. And it's a really worthwhile thing to think about doing.
So what are some of the common negative patterns that hold people back from healing? And how do you help them to shift?
So in the context of chronic illness, there's a lot of I'm trying to think of the right word for it. I mean, maybe body scanning, but like constant walking into a room and looking at everything and saying, "Oh my God, that's gonna throw me off. That's gonna cause me to have a headache." Especially with the mold illness clients, they're walking around and they are literally scanning the small details of every environment, and other things too, like you want to go out to dinner with a bunch of people. All of a sudden, all these thoughts, oh my God, am I going to be okay? Am I going to be too tired? What am I going to eat? What if there's nothing on the menu I can have? What if the waiter thinks I'm crazy? What if everyone at the table thinks I'm nuts for having to ask these questions? This whole spiral. And I can't tell you how common it is. It's so common. And then there's also, I'm never going to get better, which honestly is a very understandable way to feel when you're in Lyme treatment. You're given this treatment protocol and you start it, and the first thing that happens is you feel 1,000 times worse before you get better. So it's a very understandable place to be, and it's something that I feel is a really important part of what I do. You validate the experience, and part of that validation is the understanding that this is natural and normal, and this is not indicative of any kind of character flaw or anything that you're doing wrong. This is just tough stuff. And I've said this probably 10,000 times. Healing is not linear. Healing is not linear. You look at any graph and it goes like this. It never goes like that. So
Yeah. So always there is, if somebody is there for hand holding, it is that is the best option to get out from the disease.
yeah, I mean,
Especially
I
like
don't know
this.
that it's hand holding, but it's validating. It's witnessing. Witnessing is a big deal. A lot of people come to me and they don't have anybody in their life that they can talk to about this experience. And
Yes.
this experience is all encompassing. It's like you're not believed, you're being gaslit. I mean, and you're not even being believed by medical professionals. And within your family, you feel like people are just kind of humoring you, and it's a very lonely, upsetting place to be. So a lot of times, I start every session saying, what feels important today? And sometimes people will just look at me and just burst out into tears. And you know what? That's really important. It's really important for someone to have a place to do that.
Yeah, the best people who can do that is the person people who already had it.
Yep.
They are the best person.
I can very much understand.
So do you use any specific stress reduction or mindfulness techniques that are especially helpful for people with Lyme disease?
Well, my current favorite stress reduction technique is carbohydrate restriction. It's been like the most mind-blowing thing in my journey to figure this out. And I've become very interested in metabolic psychiatry. So that's something that I really I'm a big proponent of. I also really stress mindfulness practices, whether somebody wants to meditate or wants to just have a more informal mindfulness practice. I think it's really important to learn how to take that pause. And then of course, I'm always stressing how important it is to play. Like our society, it's like, what do you do? What'd you do today? What'd you get done? And I am just like, okay, did you get into the woods today? Did you walk your dog today? What are you going to do for you? Like I am very big on making sure that everybody carves out time just for themselves. So I think, I don't have one stress reduction technique that is my favorite, because every client is different and I just have to meet them where they are. And every client has different preferences and things that drive them crazy. And so, everything is just based on where someone is coming from. But stress reduction is huge.
So if you see a typical life pattern of a Lyme disease person, so it is most of the activities or incidents are very much depressive. So how often your clients slipped into depression?
Pretty often. It's have you experienced tick-borne illness? It's like
No.
it's like having your body invaded by aliens. And I mean, I joke around, like, especially with Bartonella, it feels like you need an exorcist as part of your team. It is really difficult. And for many people, including myself, the biggest manifestations of tick-borne illness are neuropsychiatric. So depression and anxiety are not just situational here, they are actually chemical. And so it's very important to honor that, to validate that, to tell somebody, it's really okay. Not only is it okay for you to feel this way, it's kind of normal. And so let's think of things that you can do. And those things are going to be different every day, because Lyme disease is different every day. I mean, Lyme disease is different every hour. In the morning, you can feel like you're dying. And in the afternoon, you can walk 3 miles. So it's a normal part of it. And you've got people really need to be told, it's normal. It's okay. This is a place where you can let it all hang out. This is your time. This is, my function is to hold space for you, whatever you need. And people telling other people who are going through this, oh, just snap out of it. Oh, just take a walk, or, they're not understanding the chemical component. And I am really, really not into toxic positivity at all. And so that's where I come from. Sometimes someone is just depressed, and it's okay. It's really okay.
And making some others who doesn't know what is depression and what is going on, if you tell them, people around us, they don't believe us. That is another problem that we face.
It's a big problem. It's such a big problem that I definitely tell people to not talk to people, to, identify, your supports and stick to that. And don't worry about what anybody else thinks, because until they've gone through it, they do not have the capacity to understand this. And so I'm very protective of my clients, and I really coach people to not get into it with people who are not going to be receptive. And I've also done a lot of work with people's families, to try to cultivate an understanding and compassion with spouses and kids and whatnot. But yeah, I'm pretty protective of people going through this. You can try to share with somebody, and you can try to educate someone so that they understand your situation. But oftentimes people have some kind of a block up, and that block has nothing to do with you. And I
Yes.
encourage people to pull themselves away from that. It is not helping anybody.
So, what does a typical coaching session with you will look like for someone dealing with Lyme or any other chronic condition?
So I don't know if there's a typical coaching situation, because I start every situation, every client session by asking what feels important today. And we might be working on something that takes, many weeks, whatever, but that person might have something that feels more important that day. And so I'm very client centered. Everything is, client directed. Every goal is client directed. And I do provide a lot of education and I connect people to resources, but I'll always ask permission to do that because it's the client's time. And it's important because, especially with tick-borne illness, symptoms wax and wane, they come and go. And so goal setting has to be different here. Like, you can't be beholden to a goal when you're in this situation. You have to approach it differently. So I do a lot of work with people trying to cultivate self-compassion and a more gentle approach to this, a more flexible, gentle approach.
So, could you share a transformation story that stands out? Someone who came to you with a chronic illness like Lyme and experienced a significant healing.
Yeah, I mean, with Lyme, the best thing that I do for people is get them on the right path. I can't tell you how many people come to me and they tell me about somebody, a practitioner they're working with, and advice they're getting. And a lot of times it's like not only bad advice, it feels dangerous to me. And I have to figure out a way to, honor that person and also try to gently educate and hopefully redirect and introduce other resources. And it's hard with Lyme, like it really is. It's very, very long process. And I don't feel with Lyme disease, there are these, consistent wins like in other areas of my coaching. So for me with Lyme disease, when somebody gets connected to the right practitioner and they stick with me and I'm able to support them through, these protocols are so involved and so complicated, and you're timing all this stuff and you still got to eat, and the probiotics and all these things. Like, when I can help somebody through that and make it a lot easier for them, I feel that I've helped them heal, because you can't really heal if you're worried about all this other stuff. In other areas of my coaching, I've had a lot of fabulous things where, I'll listen to someone and I'll say, this actually happened. I listened to this woman a couple of sessions and I finally said to her, how would you feel about doing a small experiment and giving up dairy for 2 weeks? And she came back to me and told me that I changed her whole life, that, she didn't realize that she had trouble like with her stomach and never going to the bathroom and things like that. I've helped people get onto keto diets, and my favorite thing is when they're able to be deprescribed off of medications. And, I have a lot of people dealing with metabolic illness who are also Lyme patients. And by the way, if you're a Lyme patient and you've got metabolic illness, your body is not in prime condition to heal. And so we work on that too, right? So I work with people with metabolic illness, and the first thing they say is, I feel so much better. I have energy. I'm excited. And then the first medicines to go are the arthritis medicines. And I can't tell you what a good feeling it is when someone tells me that, they have mobility again. I had someone who is a violin instructor who literally was thinking she was going to have to stop working. And she not only continued to work, but she got off of 3 medications. So to me, that's like a wonderful thing. But I've had people say such nice things to me. My clients are so wonderful. I've had people tell me, I never thought I could be happy unless I was a size 4, and I've got 3 daughters, and screwing them up, and you've completely changed things for me. And so these things, this is what I live for. This is why I do this. I just love it.
So, what advice would you give to someone who is newly diagnosed with the Lyme disease?
Well, my advice is to make sure you are working with somebody who really not only understands Lyme disease, but the nuances, because what I see 99% of the time is I got a tick bite. I was given 21 days of doxy, 100 milligrams twice a day. Okay, that's not killing anything. It's paralyzing the spirochete. It is not killing it. And not only is it not killing it, you're actually hastening the formation of cystic formation and biofilms, because you're causing the bacteria to, kind of react in alarm and retreat and protect itself, right? So that makes me a little crazy. And in 2025, with all that we know, to still have doctors calling themselves Lyme doctors, prescribing like that. So the first thing I do is educate somebody about what needs to happen initially. What needs to happen initially is you need to be on 200 milligrams twice a day of doxy for not 21 days, but a minimum of 1 month. However, there needs to be a very good clinical assessment for co-infections, because 99.9% of treatment failure happens because people don't understand that they have co-infections that are not being touched by doxycycline at all. And so you can't really do effective testing for a couple of weeks until antibodies start to develop, and then the testing is horrifically inaccurate. So you need a practitioner who will not only know what the right tests are, like Vibrant and IGeneX, but also who has good clinical skills, who will talk to you about the rash, the location you were in, what symptoms you're feeling, and make educated guesses about co-infections. In fact, I just went back east for 5 days for the first time in years, and I came home with 3 different bullseye rashes. And my test has not come back yet, but I am already treating for Bartonella, Babesia, and Lyme based on my clinical presentation. And I feel that that is one of the most important things. It'll
So,
save you, years of treatment and misery.
so you got into a situation where you have to educate the doctor to get a test done or a change in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
treatment path.
Unfortunately, especially when someone's new to this, it's so hard for them to evaluate what practitioners are good and what practitioners are not good, especially
Hmm.
when you go to Google and Google says, oh, take 1 dose of doxycycline or 20, so it's very, very hard for the person off the street to even know what is the right thing. And that is where I come in.
Yeah.
Hopefully that person crosses my path so that I can help them, educate them so that they know what to look for, I'll sit and help someone come up with a list of questions to ask when they meet with a practitioner in order to evaluate whether that practitioner is the right one.
Hmm. So, for those who are listening who may feel like they have tried everything, what hope or encouragement would you offer?
Well, all I can say is that every week I'm seeing more people, more podcasts, more outreach to the public with the right information. What I would say is follow Bay Area Lyme disease, follow Dana Parrish. Just following Dana Parrish with her Tick-tective podcast, and also Bay Area Lyme disease. You Google those 2 things and you'll find yourself with YouTube bank of maybe 30 different podcasts that you can listen to that cover all different facets and nuances of tick-borne illness. I would say that Global Lyme Alliance has a fabulous program, a peer mentor program, which I'm part of. You can be connected with somebody who's gone through it, who can kind of, support you emotionally as well as bounce ideas off of and get some good information. I would also tell people, number 1 rule, Do not be afraid to walk away from a doctor. Do not be afraid to walk away from a doctor. If something doesn't sound right, if they're not listening to you, if they're not validating you, if they're not taking you seriously, if you've spent 3 months on a protocol and nothing's changing, if it's staying the same or getting worse, do not be afraid to change doctors. Do not be afraid to walk away.
So that is a good message to the audience.
Yeah.
So where can our listeners find you online or learn more about working with you?
So my name is Amy Fine, Fein, and I'm all over social media, and my business is called Whole Life 180, and my website is wholelife180.com, and I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook. And I am pretty out there. I'm pretty accessible.
So your coaching sessions, will it be all online or offline?
I do all my coaching sessions online for many reasons. I mean, the first reason being that all my clients are all over the world, so that works better for me. And also, COVID is still a thing. Sorry, but COVID is still a thing. And especially for people with Lyme disease, I don't want people to get COVID. It will absolutely make every single thing you're dealing with worse. And so I'm a big advocate of telehealth and Zoom and giving people what they need without putting anybody at risk.
Okay. So now we have a rapid fire round. So I want your reply in one word. Okay. One food that you always recommend to clients to remove first.
Gluten.
Morning routine you must have for a chronic illness recovery.
One word. Get outside.
Okay. So most underrated tool for stress relief.
Carbohydrate restriction.
One myth about healing from chronic illness you wish everyone knew.
Validation.
Okay. So in one word, what does wellness mean to you?
One word? Wellness means thriving.
So Amy, thank you for sharing your story and powerful insights with us today. That brings us to the end of this deeply insightful conversation with Amy. If you found value in this discussion, please consider sharing it with someone who might benefit. Every sharing helps raise awareness and brings us closer to the world where no one has to suffer in silence.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Now, you gave a good idea about what you are doing and about you as well. So what we are doing over here. So we are having a website called a platform called Holistic Therapy Tribe, where we are listing all these doctors across USA that do specialize in holistic therapy and all the resources that is available in holistic therapy, like in terms of books. So we will just arrange the resources for ease of accessibility, then different trainings and different events that happens, and different doctors and coaches, warriors. So with whom the community can get in touch. And our aim or mission goal in the coming 10 years of period. So we want to touch 10 million people's life in their journey from illness to wellness journey. Maybe we might have give them from a podcast, they might have got a small idea or small help. Maybe from a book that we suggested, they might have got some improvement in their journey, or maybe they could get connected with a doctor. So in that particular journey, some were. So we want to be a part. So this is our goal, and
I love it.
that is what we are behind. Yeah. So
I
first
love it.
we started with the USA, and later we will expand it. So on our platform, so we are hosted around 800,000 clinics, holistic
Wow.
clinics available in USA, and 600,000 businesses, holistic businesses. So each business, some business may have different branches. So clinics will be more, and business will be lesser in count. And disease wise, we are having different resources arranged so that it will be useful for people. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah. This is what us. This is what we have behind, and this is our goal. And we are very, very confident we will be able to reach our goal. And
I think that's great.
by doing this, we will not become the richest person in the world, but we can lead a decent life.
Yep.
Yeah.
A happy, peaceful life.
Yes. And so we are having a session in the Lyme about listing all the Lyme coaches, warriors, and all. So we will be contacting you to get the further details about you. It will be a templated version. So there we will be filling it and we will be putting it on our site.
Okay.
Yeah. So our team will approach you further.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
How can I access this interview? Like if I want to share it, is that okay for me?
We will be sharing it with you.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Okay.
we will be hosting it across multiple podcast platforms. And we will be the questions that we have, the important questions, we will be promoting it separately on all the social media groups and social media channels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah. So thank you so much for your time. And yeah. So we will conclude this session, okay? And we will be contacting you, and we will be listing your profile there in the Lyme coach category.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.